What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Final day of Week 2 predictions here. I got 3 of them for you today. The first one up, a pretty big one in Boulder, Colorado. It's the Fox Big Noon kickoff. We got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We got the Colorado Buffaloes. An old Big 12 matchup renewed. This should be a very, very fun one here in Boulder. Before we dive into this preview prediction, guys, I just want to say thank you for all the support the channel has seen as of late. No idea what it means to me. You guys just have no idea. It is amazing. So thank you guys so much. You guys can continue to help support the channel, subscribe, ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded, but there are more ways than that for you guys to help me support my channel. Hey, in fact, you guys are doing one of them right now just by watching this video, and you guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, really anything else you guys are willing and or able to do to help interact with and support the channel in any way that you can. So again, thank you guys so much. But with all that business out of the way, now let's dive into this Week 2 prediction, huh? So, two very different performances for both of these teams. Nebraska coming off a disappointing performance in which they gave up a 10-3 lead, ended up losing 13-10 against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Did some really nice things in that football game, but Colorado was the story of Week 1. Dion and this Buffalo program are here, and they're here, I think, a lot sooner than what people expected. I know they're here a lot sooner than what I expected them I should say they're here a lot sooner than when I expected them to arrive as well. So let's go ahead and look at some stats from each team's Week 1 games. Again, this is only a one-game sample size, so you can take it with as big or as little of a grain of salt as you would like. But we are going to start with the road team, which in this game are the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this team had to offer here in Week 1. So, I mean, let's start with Jeff Sims, right? Jeff Sims, of course, transfer quarterback coming in. Trying to replace Casey Thompson, who ended up transferring out to go to FAU. And Jeff Sims had some really, really good moments and then had some not so good moments as well. 11 of 19, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, but he threw 3 picks. Granted, was also the team's leading rusher there as well with 19 carries for 91 yards. Really showed his ability to run. I thought that was a very, very effective part of his game this past Thursday against the Minnesota, or I guess 2 Thursdays ago at this rate now. But 3 picks, I mean, he was trying to force some throws, really trying to squeeze some passes into some areas that you just shouldn't be throwing the football. Same kind of problem with what he had at Georgia Tech. He also had turnover problems. Now, granted, a couple of them were the receiver's faults, but again, Jeff Sims had something to do in that too. They decided to run Anthony Grant, who had been fumbling the ball in a very, very crucial play. He ended up fumbling the ball, so 4 turnovers, same kind of thing that's plagued Nebraska, right? You can't win, or I should say not can't, but they haven't been able to win close games, and turnovers have really, really plagued them. They also allowed 3 sacks to the Golden Gophers, who don't have that great of a pass rush. But let's talk about the Cornhusker defense, because besides maybe their third down percentage, I thought it was a lot better than last year. They were making tackles, and the big thing with what they did in that Minnesota game was they made a running team pass the ball. That run defense was spectacular. Now, granted, Minnesota was losing 2 really good running backs in Mo Ibrahim and Trey Potts, but that's still a really, really good running back room there. They really made Anthony Kaliakmanis throw the football, which is what you were going to kind of have to do to make Minnesota win that football game there. But I mean, all in all, not a bad day for their defense. That ended up forcing a turnover, 13 points, just over 250 yards, and they did generate some sacks there as well. But the only problem with that defense coming into the Colorado game is you kind of have to do the opposite of what you did last week, right? So last week you made a running team pass the ball. Well, this week you're going to have to make a passing team run the ball, because this Colorado offense was electric in the game against TCU. 45 points, 565 yards, 510 yards from Shedeur Sanders through the air, had 4 receivers over 100 yards. Donovan Edwards, not Donovan Edwards, that's a running back from Michigan. Dylan Edwards, my apologies. Travis Hunter, Xavier Weaver, and Jimmy Horn all over 100 yards. And again, that 510 passing yards, no big deal, just a Colorado school record set by Shedeur Sanders. 4 touchdowns, 510 yards, 80% completion percentage. Granted, he did get sacked 4 times. So the offensive line definitely has some work to do, and this is a Husker defensive front that, while it's young, is going to be able to get into the backfield. But Colorado's offense flourished. It looked amazing. Now, again, 55 rush yards. They really relied on Shedeur Sanders and this amazing group of wide receivers to really be able to air it out and throw the ball. So if the Huskers have one thing going for them, it'll be that the run defense should still be pretty good. But now let's talk about the Colorado defense. I think lost in all of the hype that Colorado has built and all of the things that are working really, really well for Colorado right now is the fact that, well, their defense really did get torn to shreds. 42 points allowed, 541 yards. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass, but Colorado was able to capitalize off of the TCU mistakes. That is why Colorado was able to go win the game. Yes, Colorado took the chances that TCU gave them, and they ran with it, right? And they ran, and they were able to win the game. But I know Deion's going to be really happy with his offense. That defense has got a lot of work to do. Granted, it's a Husker offense that has a lot of work to do as well. So that matchup when the Huskers have the football should be really, really interesting to watch. But again, you take a look at those defensive numbers, and besides the 2 turnovers forced, couldn't generate sacks, couldn't really stop TCU from driving down the field in any capacity. That's going to have to turn around, especially once you get into Pac-12 play, if not before this week. I'm sure Matt Rule and Jeff Sims and the Nebraska Cornhuskers will be cooking something up. But let's go ahead and dive into kind of my what to watch for, your keys to the game, so to call it. These are just some things I think you should watch for when you watch this game. First off, we are going to start with the road team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. This offense is going to have to keep up the pace. As we just talked about, even though Colorado, not a team that, at least in their last game, showed a lot of promise running the ball, there's still a lot of good backs back there. Savion Wilkerson, Dylan Edwards, Anthony Hankerson. We didn't even see Keviasi Smoke or Alton McCaskill in that game. 2 guys that I think are really, really good players. So there is still the ability to run the ball here, but Jeff Sims and company, he's going to have to stop forcing throws. He's going to have to be able to make some plays with his arm and with his legs. This Husker offense has to get on a roll, and it probably has to start out fast because this Colorado offense is high octane, and it is fun to watch. We'll talk about that more later. On to the defensive side for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Shedeur is a whole different beast when you compare him to Anthony Kaliakmanis. Yes, Nebraska made a running team throw the football last week. You can't do that here because Shedeur is too electric. He's got too good of a group of wide receivers, and I think this Nebraska secondary really is going to struggle to try to keep up. Now, it has a lot of talent in it. It has a lot of experienced talent. It definitely has the ability to slow Shedeur down, but it's going to be really, really hard to be able to do so. The most important thing for Nebraska in this game, and I don't know how much that I can stress this, control the pace, control the clock. If you can do that and you can dominate time of possession by anywhere from maybe 5 to 7 minutes, that's definitely going to keep Shedeur and this offense off the field, and it gives Nebraska a better chance to win this game. Now on to the Colorado Buffaloes. Again, I talked about their high-octane offense so much throughout this video. It's a high-octane offense that, for this Nebraska defense, will be a lot to handle. This Nebraska defense has to be able to generate a pass rush. They have to be able to get to Shedeur Sanders with that young defensive front. They have a really experienced linebacking group and a pretty solid secondary, as I just talked about a little bit ago as well. But it will be tested in every single capacity. Again, Nebraska may have to make a passing team run the football, kind of do the opposite of what they did last week. So I think it's going to be a very interesting little concept and scheme design to be able to watch and see what Nebraska's been able to cook up. But I talked about it on the last slide for Colorado. This defense has to buckle down because you know that Matt Rule and Jeff Sims, well, again, there still is a lot to work on. I have a hard time believing that offense is not at least a little bit better than it was last week. I have a reason to believe that Matt Rule and company are going to be a much better unit. Or I should say Jeff Sims and company are going to be a much better unit offensively, and this Colorado defense is going to have to buckle down and be able to slow down this Nebraska offense, but limit the mistakes as well. There were, again, a lot of defensive mistakes made by the Colorado Buffaloes. Now, I know Travis Hunter played really, really well, but the rest of the defense definitely has to step up. Again, the TCU made their fair share of mistakes, and Nebraska likely will too, which leads me into my prediction here. Colorado is the 3-point favorite, yet the FPI still likes the Cornhuskers. As I mentioned, this is the big noon kickoff game on Fox, and I think the story is going to be very similar to last week, right? I don't think Nebraska is going to be blown out. I don't think Nebraska is going to come into Boulder and just be shellacked and just be plastered all over the walls. I think they're going to put up a fight. I think they're going to put up a really good fight. But the thing that's plagued Nebraska in the past is making mistakes and making those crucial turnovers, which, as we saw with Colorado last week, they were able to take advantage of that. Nebraska will look better offensively in this game, But the Buffaloes offense is too dynamic. They'll capitalize off mistakes, and they'll win this football game 31-20 is my prediction. Let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section down below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.